He said that he had the gun by his side. And so he didn't brandish the weapon at him. He didn't point it at him. The guy wasn't trying to rob him. But what was he doing? Like, who was that guy? So I asked my parents, like, well, who was he? It's pride, not cancer. That's the number one cause of death globally. $1,000 million moments of fulfillment is what makes me a humble billionaire. 1,000 million life lessons that were learned and applied is how I reached fulfillment. Allow me to share some of those life lesson stories with you. Welcome to Storytime, episode 8 preview from the No Advice Needed podcast. I'm 11 years old. And I'm in the family room of our residence. The year is 1992. I'm in 5th grade. So I'm in the family room and it's nighttime. It's probably about 7 or 8 p.m. I'm finished with all my homework and I'm just in the living room kind of dancing around. I just realized that we're coming upon this age where I get to go to like house parties and different things like that. And house parties are some of the best moments in that time frame because you got to dance with girls, and dances were becoming more and more of a big deal. So I'm in the room and I'm dancing, and there's like different music on. This is the time frame. 1992 is the time frame of TLC, in the time frame of like MC Hammer and Criss Cross and all these different people, and that's what I would listen to, like rap and R&B and Mary J. Blige, I think Boyz II Men, all that stuff. And just because I appreciate other cultures, although I wasn't listening to it, I did look it up, and other artists like Queen or Red Hot Chili Peppers or all types of stuff out. All types of stuff was out at that point. So I'm in the living room, I'm dancing. My parents are gone at the time, so it's just me there. I believe my little sister is there. She's about 3 years old, and my uncle is there. Good old Uncle Frank, special guy. So the music's up, and I'm just dancing around. It is nighttime, and the family room has an open window that faces the front of the house, and our driveway is to the side. And so I'm dancing around or whatever. All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I hear outside, I can hear a car skirting off, just driving off really fast. Sounded really close. So I go outside. And at this time, too, I'm in 5th grade. And of course, I'm enjoying girls. I think I had like my first girlfriend. My shirt's always off. I'm just running around with my shirt off, just enjoying that I have abs. I had this one girl that lived across the street from me. Her name was Vanessa. And I would mow the lawn with my shirt off because I realized, like, maybe I'm something to look at. And she was older than me. And, maybe I'd have a chance later on once I can muster up the courage to talk to her. But anyways, so I go outside and I see my parents' car turning the corner from our street. When you enter our street, it's a whole street, Maricopa Way. It's a way, it goes all the way around. We were like the second house in from the entrance to the street. And so I see their brake lights and I see them like turn off. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't know if that was their car that was speeding off. I don't know what's going on. So I went back inside the house. Kept doing whatever I was doing. And later on, they came home. And I was looking at my mom. She looked like she had a worried look on her face, kind of. But my mom is very poker face at times. So it looked worried. And then when she saw me, it changed from worried to nonchalant. So she'd always downplay everything. Like, oh yeah, nothing's going on. I was like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? She's like, oh, nothing, no big deal. There was some guy out front who had a gun. And I was like, oh, okay. That's strange. A guy out front has a gun. I was like, oh, did he point it at you guys? Or I was trying to figure out what was going on. She was like, oh, nothing happened. Carl, my stepdad, Carl just got in the car and he drove away. And he almost drove and hit him and pinned him against Uncle Frank's van that's parked on the side of the street. I was confused. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, and then I looked at Carl, looked at my stepdad, and I was like, hey, what's going on with that? And he was like, oh, he's lucky I didn't pin him against the van. He's lucky I didn't hit him with the car and pin him up against the van. And I was like, I don't understand what's going on. This is crazy. Like, we live in the suburbs. Like, it's a new development in it's called Natomas. It's old Natomas at this point. Me and my mom, we had moved away from Del Paso Heights. And Carl, he had moved away from the Manors, and now he's living with us, and there's this whole thing. I'm just trying to go to the dance. I'm just trying to get girls, right? That's all I'm trying to do. So I don't understand how we're in the suburbs now and how somebody can just come up to our house holding a gun. Now that I'm in law enforcement, I realized that my parents specifically said that he had the gun by his side. And so he didn't brandish the weapon at him. He didn't point it at him. The guy wasn't trying to rob him. But what was he doing? Like, who was that guy? So I asked my parents, like, well, who was he? And they were like, oh, my mom was like, oh, I don't know, just some random guy. So I knew that was a lie. And then my stepdad was like, oh, it's somebody I know, and I was doing a real estate deal with him, and it went bad. Or he felt like I owed him money. He didn't understand. He's a stupid guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand how business works with real estate. And I tried to help him out. We were partners. It fell through, and now he showed up at the house with a gun. But he's just he's just a crumb. A crumb. That was a phrase used in my household. Just talking about people that were like stupid or that they were stuck in a certain mentality. So I'm still trying to piece everything together. Okay, I'm in the family room. I'm dancing. I hear tires screeching. I go outside. I come back in the house. Parents come home. They say that they know the guy. It was a bad real estate deal going bad. He has a gun. He doesn't point at him, doesn't try to shoot him. But I wonder if he was trying to scare him. I don't know what it was. And they drove off and then came back. And so that made me think in my head later on in life that I'm always in survival mode. I'm always ready to do what I need to do to protect me and my family, because there's no telling. There's no resting. Like, you can't make it to a certain place in life and then just rest there and not expect people to either try to take what you have, to try to swindle you out of what you have. And so that's just kind of the mindset that I've always had from the household that I grew up in. My parents kept their survival mode. Okay, so hold on to that story. That's where my parents were. That real estate deals and different things could still go bad, even though your life is okay. You made it out the hood. You made it out the trap. You made it out of poverty. You've elevated in life. You're now in the suburbs. Things are nicer. Your kids are able to go to better schools. I was able to go to the cleanest school I've ever gone to. And I spent the first 6 years of my life in Del Paso Heights on Silver Eagle Road. And then I spent the next 5 years of my life in the suburbs from first to fifth grade. Completely different lifestyle. So as I got older, a couple years later, after that, this is my story. I would say maybe I'm 14, 15. I'm 14. I'm in junior high, 8th grade. And my parents and I were butting heads. And they're trying to get me to do certain things, certain ways, and I'm not in agreement with it completely. I want to stay out longer. I want to play basketball. I want to pursue my dream with basketball. I'm not necessarily getting help from them, so I have to do it on my own. So I'm frustrated, and they want, chores to get done. They want me to have better grades. Although my grades were C's, and I wasn't close to failing, they still knew that I could get higher grades. They knew I had B level, A level potential. Every now and then I'd get honor roll. I'd have honors classes in English and various things. But I chose to socialize over academia. That was my choice. So I would stay out late. My parents would catch me, ask me what was going on. I'd make up all the excuses that a teenager would make up. Lost track of time. There was no phones around. Somebody got hurt. I had to help them out. My teacher held me late. Oh, I was at a study session. All these different lies, and they would catch me in the lies. I would get grounded, and then I would be grounded up to like 6 months, and then I'd do something else, and it would be another 2 months, and it was a strange system in my household. So at that point, I got fed up with everything. And I said, I don't even really need you guys. I could live on my own. The only thing I would need is just food. I could live off of bologna sandwiches and chips and just go to school if you would just let me do it my way. And my parents, my mom, she was like, this sounds crazy. What are you talking about? You can't do that. My stepdad was like, oh, fine. You think you could just live off bologna sandwiches? And for some reason, I still love bologna. I love fried bologna. I love how you fry the bologna. You have to pop it in the middle. This was a poverty delicacy that I was just used to. Hot dogs, chips, bologna, Cheez-Its, various things like that. So I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could finish out the rest of my 8th grade year. And you know what? Actually, I'll make a deal with you. Let me live in the rental house. There's a rental house that's still where we came from. We kept that house. It was Silver Eagle Road. That's in the hood. We kept that house and we moved to Natomas, and it was used as a rental house. But during this time, there was renovations happening, and there was a guy living there that knew my stepdad. And sometimes with various properties, if you didn't want squatters to come, you would allow somebody to live there for free who was maybe transient or down on their luck or didn't have a place to stay. You let them stay there in the meantime until you were able to fix up the place and then put tenants in it. So that's what my stepdad was doing at this time. I decided that, well, I could just stay in my old room on Silver Eagle. I could just live there. It won't be a problem. I know, and I could ride my bike all the way from Del Paso Heights to Natomas Junior High, which was really out in the sticks in the rural area. And I would do that. And you would see that my grades would be better. You see that I would be more focused without the pressure of my parents. My mom's like, absolutely not. You're not doing this. This is stupid. My stepdad's like, yeah, go ahead. Let him do it. Yeah. Okay. But you're only getting this amount of food, and you only, get this bike. And if it gets a flat, you're going to have to fix it. You're going to be able to fix it. I was like, yeah, I'll be able to fix it. It's not a problem. I'll be able to do all this stuff. So I gathered my stuff, packed my things, and I moved in to the house. Now the house only had water and electricity. So it had that, but there's no furniture in there. It's just me, a sleeping bag, my stuff, my belongings, a bike, and this guy. We'll call him, I don't know. We'll just call him Harold. Harold was living there. He was Carl's childhood friends. Now, Carl did tell me, and he told my mom, that Harold had recently gotten out of prison. And he had been out of prison maybe like a year's time. I don't know exactly what he did, what his crime was, why he was convicted. I'm not sure what all the charges were. But my stepdad was like, oh, it's not anything that's too bad like we think. It's fine. You'll be fine. I've known him since childhood, all these things. My mom didn't know him. I didn't know him. First time meeting him. He tells Harold what's going to happen. Harold agrees to it reluctantly. And I'm fine with it. I'm like, all right. And maybe it's just the privileged side. Maybe it's my pride. Maybe it's me thinking like, I'm a black belt in karate. I'm not fearful of stuff. I'm comfortable in a minimalist situation. And I'm going to prove my parents wrong. So I spent a couple nights there. It's cold. I'm just out of my sleeping bag. I wake up in the morning, I get dressed, and I go to school. Once school is out, and of course, I don't tell my friends this at all because this sounds stupid. It's going to give them ammunition to roast me when I'm roasting them. So I'm not telling them anything. Nobody knows that this is happening except me, my stepdad, and my mom. And so go to school. I come back to the rental property on Silver Eagle Road. I fix my food. I fry a bologna sandwich. I eat. I drink some water. I do my homework. I go to sleep. I wake up and do it again. I stay out as late as I want. Most of the time, it's still not super late as far as like it's as soon as the sun sets. So once the street lights come on, then I went home to my new home. So I kept doing that. I got to know Harold. And so Harold and I, the first couple nights, we were having conversations at this table, right? There was just kind of one little raggedy table set up, no great furniture or whatever, anything like that. I'm eating my food, I'm talking to him. He's telling me like, hey, yeah, your parents, they're just trying to look out for you. Your stepdad, he's a good guy. Why are you here? Why are you, what are you trying to prove? And I was like, I'm good. I have my food. I have whatever. And while I'm talking to Harold, he's drinking. And he's kind of always drinking. All he has to do is watch the house. He's not doing anything. He doesn't have a job from what I could tell. And he has his own bike. So we're at the same status in life at this point, just surviving. So Harold, he tells me about his time in prison. He tells me different stories, and he's like staring at me. He's staring me directly in my eyes, and I'm looking at him. Have no problem giving people eye contact, and this doesn't change anything. I don't know him as far as I don't know his triggers or anything, but we're having pleasant conversations. I'm not talking. I'm polite. I'm mannerful. And I'm not triggering him or roasting him or talking mess or talking smart. I'm just trying to go to sleep. So we have this conversation. He talks about the difficulties of being in prison and that he's there with killers. He's there with thieves. He's there with rapists. He's there with all these types of people. And it kind of feels like one of those scared straight moments. Like, yeah, if you keep going down this path of bologna sandwiches and going against your parents and riding your bike and staying out late, eventually it's going to go bad for you. And so I'm hearing him say all these things. I could kind of see the angle that he's going at. And I'm like, all right, well, yeah, I get it. You had a tough life. You went to prison. You're out now. And you trust, my stepdad. You feel like you're going to be able to get on your feet and he's going to help you get on your feet. I don't care. Just want to go to sleep. So I end up going to sleep. I end up going to school again, come back home to that new place there. My mom, she comes to visit me. She brings me like some toiletry stuff. That was a part of our deal too, that, it would be like the regular kind of miscellaneous items, toothpaste, toilet paper, things like that. They'll provide that. It's just a minimal amount of food, no transportation, and you're on your own. So my mom comes to visit. She's like, oh, how's everything going? I was like, oh, I'm good. Got my homework done. I've been hooping more. I feel good. Everything's fine. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, are you worried? Are you scared? Are you anything? I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And my pride was so high that I couldn't even really think about being scared or worried or anything. I felt fine. And so my mom, she got scared. She went home. She came back the next day, and it had been like a week at this point. And so the weekend is here. Nothing's happening. Now, actually, I will say something did happen on Friday with Harold. So I came home on Friday, and I went to make my normal food or whatever, and I see this huge thumbprint in my package of bologna, and the little top's like ripped off. It's I keep things like neat. Like I don't lift and rip off the top because that's weird. Where if you lose the top to it, then it's exposed in the refrigerator. And my mom, she trained me well. And then I saw like a thumbprint in the bologna, and I was like, this dude's eating my food. Harold's eating my bologna sandwiches. He need to get his own bologna sandwiches. So I was mad. I was like, bro, this is my only food that I have. Like, and he's digging into my stash. And so when my mom and my stepdad came the next day, I told them what had happened. And they were like, oh, okay. We'll talk to Harold. So my stepdad was like, I'll talk to Harold. My mom at this point, she's like, you're coming home. This is ridiculous. You have nothing to prove. I don't know what type of game you and your stepdad are playing. And I was telling my mom, like, no, I'm not ready to come home. I'm fine. I don't see why I have to come home. Everything's fine. I'm sticking to the deal. If you guys give in, then you are not holding up your part of the deal. You lost the bet. You lost the lesson that you were trying to teach me. So I stay through the weekend going to Monday. And from there, on Monday, when I come back home, my stepdad picks me up. He says, hey, get your stuff. Get all your stuff. We're leaving. And I was like, okay, I don't get why, but fine, whatever. Like we're not leaving because I'm scared. We're not leaving because I gave in. I did my part. I practically won. And so as we were driving home, my stepdad was telling me that him and Harold had talked, and he had brought up like, hey, you ate some of my son's food, and how's he been doing? What's going on? And Harold had told him like, I don't know what you guys are doing. This is like a dangerous game. He's a little kid. I've been in prison. Like this isn't a good match for him to spend a night here every night with me. I don't know what's going on. Like I told him all the different stuff, and I don't know if I could control myself. And that's when my stepdad took me out of that situation. I never saw Harold again. Actually, I did see him again. Actually, it was actually the only time that I had gone up to jail, to Sac County Jail. I think he had got arrested on something, and then Carl or my stepdad went to go visit him, and I had gone on the visit with him. That was the only time I've actually been to jail to visit somebody. And, it was nothing. It was the same. It was the same kind of energy as when I sat across the table from him. I wasn't shocked I was in jail. I wasn't shocked that I was visiting him in jail. I wasn't shocked that he was in jail. I just wasn't scared of that particular situation. But it taught me about survival mode, what survival mode looks like, and what I was willing to do to prove a point that I could survive past a certain situation, that I don't mind poverty. I don't mind the struggle. I feel like that's what I was born into. That's what I came from. And in my head, you do what you need to do to survive. And that's how it is in any fight I've ever gotten into. I usually don't take fighting seriously until there's a threat on whether or not I'm going to get hurt or not. That's why sometimes it'd be difficult for me to play sports or to play games, because it's not a life or death situation. So I wouldn't necessarily compete or give my all unless it was a life or death situation. Does the end justify the means? Meaning that when you are in a survival situation, is it justified to do whatever it takes to not be destroyed, to not be killed, to do whatever it takes to survive? Does the end justify the means? Second question, does good intentions justify the means? And maybe that's the better question. Does the end justify the means, meaning does good results by doing whatever it takes, doing anything you need to do, getting good results out of it, does that justify you doing whatever you had to do, whether it was cutthroat, whether it was cheating, whether it was stealing, robbing, killing? Does a good result justify bad behavior? Do good intentions justify bad behavior in order to get what you want? When it came to growing up in my household, I saw that my parents were always in survival mode. And they had taught me what survival mode means and what it actually looks like. And so when, in the first story, when my parents had to drive away and potentially consider, when my stepdad had to potentially consider hitting a guy with his car that was holding a gun by his side because a real estate deal went bad, he was considering survival mode. Do I kill him? Do I drive away and then call the cops on him later? I think later on he actually did file some type of restraining order against the guy. And that was a part of his survival mode, that he would still interact with people from the neighborhood, trying to raise capital to invest in property and to do his various real estate deals, because every deal counted. Every deal needed to get, every real estate deal needed to get done in order for us to be able to stay in the suburbs and not move back to a poverty-stricken neighborhood. For me, with survival mode, it's more of I can do things my way, or learn how to become independent without necessarily doing exactly everything the way my parents were trying to tell me to do or trying to force me to do. But my pride was kicking in because I watched them be in survival mode. Like, oh, we can handle this, we can go through this, and be nonchalant about it. Like there wasn't panicking in my household when things would go bad, or when there would be less food, or when a car would break down, or whatever the case was. It was, okay, a bad situation happens, be resourceful, get out of the situation. Out of the two stories, one word comes to mind: pride. Pride could have got my stepdad's whole family killed, not reconciling his problems in a sufficient enough way to where it didn't yield violence. I could have got hurt when I ran outside. I didn't know what I was running outside to. Pride on my end. For the second story, I could have been sexually abused by Harold. I could have been beat up. I could have been sex trafficked. I could have been killed. I could have been kidnapped all together. But my pride wanted to prove a point. And once again, even on the second story, it's still the pride of my stepdad to put me in a dangerous situation just so he could prove a point. I learned a valuable lesson in dealing with those two situations. Pride is something that can help you survive when you are in the worst situations of your life. But pride can also be the biggest downfall when you're in the best situation of your life. It's pride, not cancer, that's the number one cause of death globally. Based on this story, guess which aspect of life the next episode is about. mental, physical, social, cultural, or aspirational. Sincerely, John Joshua. 2 first names, no middle.